Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very close friend from the YPO, a very, very accomplished professional from the Middle East, Mr. Ali Tabbara. Ali, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ashutosh. Good to be here with you.
Thank you. Ali is the managing director of Saudi Medicare Company. He was earlier the managing director of UTC International, Auditors and Consultants. And as I mentioned, he's a fellow YPO member. So Ali, let's start with your move. You moved from a role in consulting for almost 2 decades to running hospitals and healthcare. Tell me about this transition from consulting to operations. What were your learnings and what were your challenges?
So actually, if we want to go even more back in time, I've jumped through so many careers in my life.
Okay.
Almost all of them have been in family businesses, and in many cases were operational roles.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, there wasn't much of a challenge to move from a consulting area to an operational area. So that was another operational role that I actually enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't much of a challenge transitioning, and I actually always enjoyed these. To say always enjoy is kind of a stretch, but when I have a new role and responsibility, I enjoy the learning that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. And what have been some of your learnings in this incredible world of healthcare?
I mean, there's so much to speak about. Mm-hmm. I don't think we have enough time to cover everything.
Absolutely.
But in a way, there was a similarity between what I did when I was in audit, tax, and consulting, mm-hmm. which is we are servicing our clients who are corporates. Mm-hmm. So you have to give them good service regularly, always take care of your client. Healthcare is pretty much the same thing, but they're individuals, and you're dealing with their health, which is a much higher level of care. You cannot make a mistake here. And in the other setting, okay, you can make a mistake on a typo, on getting numbers wrong on the financial, and you can fix it. Here, mistakes are not tolerated.
No room for error.
Exactly, not tolerated or tolerable. So the higher level of care, which actually goes very well with my ethos of doing business. Always go for the best, and do you and the team should do the best for your clients.
And one more question before I move to Saudi Medicare. What were some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, specifically in healthcare, when you're dealing in business, and you're a businessman, the conversation can always, you and I can talk business all the time, and we have the same set of experiences and knowledge when it comes to running a regular business. When it comes to healthcare, there are areas on the medical side that, as a non-medical professional, I wouldn't know. So there is that the learning curve is a bit longer in that sense, and in a way you need to sort of hold your horses and be patient before you open your mouth and make a decision or give an opinion until you get that familiar with it. Two, the medical terms, right? When the doctor says, "Oh, we're going to do a laparoscopic, we need someone with a laparoscopic experience." Okay, let me quickly Google laparoscopic. The lingo.
Very well said. Very well said. So yes, Ali, let's talk about Saudi Medicare Company. Tell me a little bit about the venture and your businesses.
Well, Saudi Medicare is a holding company. It started back in the 80s by a large Saudi conglomerate, and the business back in the 80s, 90s to early 2000s was managing hospitals in the Middle East. and basically government hospitals that outsource the management and the setup. Along the lines, the company grew and acquired a UK hospital management company called UME, United Medical Enterprises. And so it went from a regional player to a global player covering almost 22 countries. Over the last, let's say, 15 years or so, that outsourcing business, or the government decided, or ministries of health decided to take that in-house. So that side of the business basically was, closed down. And what transpired is that the group now has operates and owns its own facilities in 4 countries, starting from the Middle East. So we have Oman, have a hospital where I am right now. In Dubai, we have a polyclinic. In Saudi, we have radiology, and we also have a shareholding, a substantial shareholding in Kingdom Hospital. And in the UK, we have a clinic in Harley Street, and also a JV in the country in Coventry. And in most of in everywhere, our focus has been on radiology, MRI, 3T MRIs, CT, PET CT. Radiology is a big component of our business in those countries, and we keep now looking to expand into more countries, or even expanding within the countries that we operate, and being strategic about it.
Fascinating. So my next question to you is that, Muscat or Oman, UAE, Saudi, the UK, how do you manage across so many different countries and also so many different cultures?
Great question. Basically, it's effectively running 4 different companies.
Correct.
In 4 different economies. That's the quickest way to answer your question. Unlike, I guess, operating a different type of industry where you're selling a product or something. In operating in healthcare, each country has its specific norms, regulations, way of conducting business. The way the UK business model works has nothing to do with the way it works here in Oman. So for me, you ask me about the learning, I am now a subject matter expert about HR rules in those 4 countries, about doctors' compensation, about third-party payers, about insurance. So each country is unique.
Correct.
Each country is different, and the skill set you require a different type of skill set in each one of those countries. So the synergies exist on some level, which on the clinical side, yes, you can have some UK doctors giving an opinion on in Oman or vice versa, a bit of advisory stuff, but on the core, it's really operating 4 different companies in 4 different countries.
Fascinating, because healthcare is a subject which, based on my own experience, is very different in every country. Every Ministry of Health has their own views and their own rules. And you're operating in 4 of them. So
yeah, and I think everybody now in the world can see that because of the response to COVID, right? Every country and sometimes within the country have different rules for their citizens, whatever, right? So we've seen that live. We're still living it as we speak, right? So yeah, it is completely. Everyone is unique. And in a way, makes for a lot of interesting learnings.
Fascinating. So that's your last response is a segue to my next question, which is on COVID. On the one side, the COVID has impacted the whole world, but on the other side, all of you, the healthcare workers, have been at the front line. How has this impacted you, your colleagues, and what have been your learnings and challenges?
Well, I can tell you, because we operate in 4 countries with different practices in each one, the impact has been different. So the UK, for example, we operate a polyclinic focusing cardiology, orthopedic, and imaging. When the lockdowns happened in the UK, people did not, these were all elective, mostly elective, other than cardiac. So guess what? Patients stopped coming to the clinics, business shrunk. Similar for Dubai, similar for Saudi, where we run radiology centers. At the hospital, business picked up in the we created a COVID ward, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. But then elective surgeries were banned, as in many other countries in the world.
Right.
So we had to manage according to the rules of the per country rules, and also patient desires and fears, because a lot of patients said, early on in the days of COVID, we didn't know what we were dealing with, and a lot of people opted to err on the side of caution and stayed home, and understandably. So we had to manage through that. But in Oman, we converted an entire ward into a COVID ward, because we needed to create that separation between maternity and cardiac, for example, which these are critical areas. These were not elective, which was actually our newest refurbished ward, to a COVID ward, just because this was the right thing to do for our team and our patients.
Very interesting, because I was talking to some doctors in India, and they were saying that on the one side, we had to be very conscious of managing COVID patients. On the other side, there were critical surgeries coming up as well, which were non-COVID. So how are you balancing this mix? Because you can't tell a critical surgery that, listen, my COVID is more important, or vice versa.
Oh, I have to give a lot of credit to our doctors and nurses. The number of hours that they have spent, and really, COVID patients, they need nonstop attention, right? So, and then, God forbid, and it did happen, we had COVID. Some of our workers had COVID. They had to isolate. People around them had to isolate. So we had many sleepless nights at the hospital dealing with this situation. And I give a lot of credit for the team here that managed through this very, very difficult time.
Correct.
Thank God it's now behind us. We hope it never comes back again. But it was very challenging, but we managed through it. We didn't turn away anyone that needed needed medical treatment, and I give all the credit to the team.
Fantastic. So I've got one more question before I move to the next segment, and this is about a conflict that is going on between owners and doctors in India particularly. I don't know if it's the same in your markets. Owners are investing huge sums of money in healthcare, and therefore they have to get returns. Doctors have to treat patients, and therefore there is this constant conflict on, should I get more tests done? Should I get less tests done? And so on and so forth. I just want your views on something like this.
I can understand that point of view, certainly. However, in our case, there's absolutely no conflict.
Okay.
Actually, my own philosophy and that of the ownership of this group is that patient comes first.
Okay.
And we will not spare a penny in order to provide the best level of care for the patient. Give you an example. A couple of years ago, we needed to buy a new MRI machine, and there are, basically 1.2 or a 3, okay, and 3 being the high-end one. And there is a substantial price differential between the two. Our ownership decided to go for the 3 Tesla and not the 1.2 to be the only hospital, the only private hospital in Oman to own a 3 Tesla.
Wow.
So in this case, we really put a priority on the patient, and we believe by doing that and providing the best level of care in the market, that will set us apart from any other outfit. One, it makes us feel good about us, about what we are doing, that we're doing what is right. We would expect that level of service if we go to that hospital. And two, when you do that, then it becomes the consequence of that is positive. People will like the hospital. They will like the services that you offer, and then business will come. So actually, by investing and being, not being a penny wise, pound foolish, right? Invest, look after your patients, give them the best level of care, get the right equipment for your doctors. What's the point if I have a top-notch doctor and I give him equipment that is 15 years old or 10 years old? He's only as good as 10 years ago, right?
Very well said.
So do what you would do as a best practice, and then business will take care of itself.
Very good, very good. So my next question to you is that for someone who's running 4 different companies in 4 different countries, what is your leadership style?
I'm a very good Zoom talker.
Okay. And yet flying all over the world now.
Well, it used to be flying around, but then with COVID hitting, we had to do a lot. There was no other way to do it but through Zoom.
Correct.
And we managed through that. But not really, my management style. It's good, being a good listener. You have to be a good listener. 2, you have to be a motivator. I want to motivate people, especially when I was on a Zoom call. I have to do a lot of motivation.
Correct.
On the Zoom, right?
Correct.
And then empowering the team that you have. Right. At the end of the day, I'm not doing the surgery. I'm not taking care of the patient. I'm only leading a team, and I'm counting on them to deliver that level of service. So a lot of that. I'm also a cheerleader. Okay. I really, nothing gives me more pleasure than to commend our team and our people on the achievements they've done. Because if they do a good job, I look good. So hey, it's all win-win, right? And so I am a cheerleader for my team. Also decisive, right? I don't think an organization can be led by someone who's not so decisive, is always second guessing him or herself. So decisive is, I think, and I think very important, keeping your word. I think that's key. And people can count on you if you say, I'm going to do something, I'm going to, and then keeping the word. This is really, I think, one of my key traits.
Wonderful. So now I'm going to move to the last segment of our conversation. All our viewers and listeners love to get to know my guest a little better. So I'm going to first start with YPO. You and I are both members for a long time of YPO, an organization that we love.
Yes.
And I've seen you giving back a lot to YPO. So my question to you is, what makes you give back so much to the organization?
The way I've felt about this organization, the more I've invested my time and energy, I've been rewarded in multiples. Getting to know you, for example, how else would we have met hasn't if it wasn't for YPO. And being in leadership roles on a regional and an international level just expanded this connection and this network so profoundly. And it has actually been also, whenever I had any question or any request for a service, the YPO network was there. So really, it's been so rewarding. And on a personal level, I've learned so much from people, from fellow members around the world. And it's just, it's like the gym. Someone, a YPO mentioned, I don't remember who is it. YPO is like a gym. The more time you spend in the gym, the better you are.
The better you are. I agree with you completely. And, you said getting to me, I say the feeling is mutual. I mean, without YPO, I would never have had a chance to meet you. So I agree with you completely. So I've got time for 3 more questions, and I'm trying to decide what to ask you. But let me ask you a little philosophical question. For someone who's been, as you said, in so many different businesses in your life, from where you stand today, what does success mean to Ali?
I think success to me is doing something that others have not been able to accomplish. As success to me is when someone says, "Oh, this cannot be done," and I find a way to do it. Success to me is to see people able to achieve something that they thought they couldn't achieve.
Okay.
If I'm able to mentor or coach someone and see that look of satisfaction in their face, that to me is success.
Fascinating. And a follow-up question to success is, who or what inspires you?
There isn't a who. It's really I'm just an optimistic person, and I'm self-motivation to do good, to do better, in life and in business, there's always these regular challenges that come our way. And I think it's, just achieving things that others were not necessarily able to achieve, didn't want to commit the time to it or the energy. I find that something that I like to do. Maybe, I guess as YPO, we're all problem solvers, aren't we? So this goes along the same line.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. So I'm going to ask you 2 more questions. My next question is the question on failure. And I've often said, I've got a new book that's come out on failure also. I've often said that parents in South Asia, probably in the Middle East as well, don't teach children it's okay to fail. We're always told, come first, go to the head of the line, etc., etc. Yet we learn when we fail. My question to you is, what have been your learnings from your mistakes?
Well, there's been a good share of mistakes, so that's how we learn, right? And really, the biggest one for me is never to guarantee anything unless you have control of all the various aspects. If you're going to promise something, make sure you are in a position to deliver on that promise. If it's something not related to you and you cannot really control, then all of a sudden you're putting your name, your credibility, and everything you've worked for to establish in a variable that is out of your control. So really, it's about guaranteeing something, putting your name to something where you don't have all the variables under your control.
Fascinating.
This is
fascinating. And my last question to you, and Ali, this is for the many, many young people who will listen to our conversation. What would your advice be to a young manager who's starting off on her or his journey in the corporate world?
So I say this to my kids who are, now in that, they are in the workforce and they're in the late 20s. So along the same lines, like invest the time required to be a subject matter expert in your area. In know the little details about what you're supposed to do. Don't be superficial. Don't know a little bit about it. Dig deep. Get to know your area that you're doing, and just own it.
Wonderful. Ali, thank you so much. It's been such a privilege speaking to you. Thank you for talking about your journey, about all your learnings in healthcare, about what you've got from YPO, and about your incredible advice to thousands of people who will listen to our conversation. Thank you again, and good luck.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.